Welcome to the Antisocial Podcast. You guessed it, my name is Andy. A big hello and welcome to anybody that's listening to the podcast for the first time. Hopefully you enjoy this episode, and as a result, go back and listen to some of the previous guests that I've had on over the last couple of years. Lots of amazing and interesting people that I've had on. And if this is your 75th or 76th or whatever it is podcast and you've been listening since day dot, a massive thank you and welcome back, and hopefully you'll enjoy this episode as much as you have with all the previous episodes to date. So this week, I'm going to dive right in, is with a gentleman by the name of Marko Mustac. Hopefully I got his surname correct. Ever since I met Marko last year, he's been on my radar to have on the podcast. He's a very interesting person and somebody that I have difficulty describing. Even in the podcast itself, Marko struggles to really describe who he is and what he does. Because of that, or the reason for that, I should say, is I class Marko as a true jack of all trades. He is a freelancer and somebody that's always, I guess, adapted to change, and as a result is this multi-talented person that's done an amazing amount of different things over the years. I found an online bio, actually, that might describe him a little bit better than what I'm doing at the moment, so I'll quickly read this out. This just gives a very small snapshot of what Marko is, and the episode itself will be a little bit more descriptive and detailed as to what Marko is all about. But here we go. Marko is a management and communication trainer, actor, improviser, writer, director, and producer. He also creates and facilitates programs in leadership, communication, presentation, and teamwork for corporate, government, and non-for-profit organizations throughout the Asia-Pacific region. Marko has performed in and directed comedy shows around Australia for the last 30 years. That's quite a bit just off the top of that quick spiel there. There's much more to Marko. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let Marko do the talking. We talk about everything and anything that he's been involved with over the years. I'm really curious, and one of the things that I ask Marko and try to, I guess, dive into a little bit is his whole approach to being adaptable and changing and having that whole freelance approach, and I guess the benefits of that. And I was quite surprised with Marko because I really saw him as somebody that's always been naturally a bit of an extrovert, and as Marko describes in the episode itself, it's been far from the case. So enough of this. I'll let Marko do the talking. This is a really good episode. We caught up in a cafe in Leichhardt, a little bit of background noise, and even an impromptu birthday celebration in the background. So enjoy it. And all the housekeeping and notes are at the end of the podcast episode. So please enjoy this episode with Marko Mustac. So we can describe our surroundings at the moment. We're in Bar Italia.
Yeah, Bar Italia. I have to think I was about to say Bar Italy. No, Bar Italia. It's been here forever.
Have you come here often? Like, is it sort of a local for you?
A long time ago I used to live here.
Yeah.
Gee whiz, about 15 years ago I used to live in the area.
Yeah.
And I'm back in the area again, and in Leichhardt, and it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Nothing's changed at all.
It changed hands about a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And I've spoken to them, and they just say they've been told that they have to keep the character of the place. So it's a little bit of changes, but
you don't want to annoy the locals.
No, the funny thing is, it's still the coffee shop that has signs up saying no soy, no this, no. It's like they only do one kind of milk, no skim, no anything.
It's the basics, and that's it. There's plenty of other options in Leichhardt if you want to check it out. But and that's
so it's a bit of an institution. It's been here for ages, and I think it's because it's got great ice cream.
Mm.
And it's kind of it's not cool, and it's not cool.
Yeah.
It's just a weird bunch of everybody comes here.
Well, it's probably like the locals know about it, but everybody else would probably walk straight past it and look for something that's a little bit more flash, or as you said, a bit more hip. And there's a lot of places that have opened up over the last few years. They've got that sort of that rustic, organic feel to it.
Which is great.
Yeah.
But, this is like, it's just the same.
We've got some fantastic leafy wallpaper on the... Oh, it's just some sort of wall here. So the decoration's pretty amazing. Well, thank you.
Well,
thanks for having a coffee with me. And
thanks for inviting me.
Not a problem. I guess maybe to kick it off, and I'll do an introduction as well, but do you want to give a brief rundown of who you are?
That's a hard one.
How do you condense
How do you
it?
do that?
Or you can just start right from day dot.
I've just done. I just do so many different things. Partly by being I don't know. See, I know. Oh, gee, this you put me right on the spot straight away. I instantly thought of a friend of mine.
Yep.
Who's an actor.
Okay.
Who won't do anything else.
Yep.
He'll sit in front of the couch. He's getting on now. He's an older guy. Sit in front of the couch and play Nintendo, whatever, and stare at the TV, watching Stan and Netflix. But if you say there's a different kind of job going, like some teaching, drum, or something related, he just goes, "No, I'm an actor.
No.
That's it." And I kind of respect that because he goes through long periods where he's out of work and stuff, but he gets work.
Yep.
He's known, but it's just single-minded. It's bizarre, really. In my life, I've kind of been able to do a few different things, and so I keep switching depending on what's going. And so, over the years, I've worked as a professional writer on television. I've worked as a writer for corporate events. I've directed events and shows. When I was about 23 or 4, I discovered this thing called theatre sports and improvisation.
Okay, yeah.
And that was new at the time, and I fell into it and started getting work doing that. Like people doing shows, and then doing heaps of shows, and then doing corporate training based on improvisation. So, and then with the people I've worked with, because I'm the guy who organises stuff, I don't know if you find the same thing. It's like they turn to you, like I could do spreadsheets, I could do this, I could make sense of things, I could organise shit. Then if we had shows, and there'd be a group of us, years ago trying to get something together, I'd end up going, yeah, I'll do that. And there'd be guys going, oh, yeah, I don't know how to do that. And so I'd end up organising them. And then I ended up for 2 stints for years working as a manager and then artistic director of a theatre company.
Yes, okay.
So basically being a producer of shows. And so I just go from one, they overlap, and it means I've sort of been an eternal freelancer. With those jobs of managing and that they've been full-time jobs. But they've been the only ones, like 4 years as a manager of a company, another 3 years as an artistic director manager. But the rest, maybe a year or 2 full-time as staff on a TV show. But the rest of it's been really freelance and bouncing from one to the other. So it's like, God, it's hard to get acting work. Oh, there's this improv work. Oh, teaching work. I can do that. Oh, who's going to organise? I'll organise that show. Oh, there's a chance writing for them. I'll write for them. So it's been really mixed up.
Did you find that was a conscious decision that you wanted to try and branch out into a whole range of different areas, or was it just a case that you liked the idea of just giving something a shot for the first time and just led to opportunities after that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, to be perfectly honest, if I can imagine if you're an actor that suddenly gets huge jobs, travels the world, makes millions of dollars, you go, well, that's what I do. But I'd get like a taste of something, and I'd get like 6 months of really good work, and I'd be training for it, get an acting job, and this and that, and then it'd go quiet. And as I say, other actors would go, well, that's just life. And but then I was a writer first. So I'd be always writing very bizarre, dark short stories and stuff, and getting some of it published. And because I was working a bit in comedy, suddenly they'd be like, oh, why don't you come and work on the team? And I go, I've never done that before. What, a TV show? Yeah, it'd be great. So suddenly I'm doing that for 6 months thinking, this is my life. And then the job ends because the show ends. And you go, oh. And then you look around for other work like that, and it's like, oh, it's not much. Maybe there's a bit of here and there, and you think, oh. And then someone says, hey, we need someone to do some teaching of this improvisation, this stuff. And you go, oh, I could try that. So it's been a bit like that. Sometimes I kind of go, what's that thing where I just go, this is it. Yeah. But it never is. Like, for instance, even now, like I'm in my 50s now, and it's like about 3 or 4 years ago, a guy I'd worked with doing some corporate training for the mining industry, because they had execs and they wanted them to communicate a bit better, so I was doing the improv stuff with them.
That'll be an interesting group of people in the mining industry.
Here we go, happy birthday. Got to sing along. Happy birthday. Oh, they tanked on their own song. No, come on, keep going. Don't give up. Now, there's a bunch of adults whimping out of the song.
I know.
Kid carried the whole thing.
Well, that's probably something you see quite a bit doing in corporate training events.
Oh, yeah. Come on, everybody, get into it. But, so I did this thing with these engineering people. It's great. And then that guy saw this American group called Ariel that did leadership presence training, 2-day intense programs, and very picky about their facilitators and who they use as their trainers. And he and a few friends were going to take the Australian franchise.
Right, okay.
And he said, you got to be up for this. We work with you. We think you're terrific. So the blower went, oh, yeah, all right. Sure, what it is. And it's like, it's exhaustive, on and off, 2-year selection training process.
Wow.
A week of training, travelling over there, travelling here. Then, is it happening? No. Then, no, we've still got next selection process, headhunting, down the list of 20, down the list of 5. And eventually I got selected. And now suddenly, the last couple of years, I've been doing that. And that could explode into a ton of work. But at the moment, it's just another one of those. Every month or so, someone says, oh, we got another 2-day program in Singapore. Do you want to do it? And I go, yeah, sure. Off I go. But again, I look at that and I go, it's so bloody difficult.
Yeah.
None of these become the thing. They just become one of the major things you do.
Are you still searching for the thing?
No. That's what I was leading to. I've actually got to the conclusion that that's actually what I do.
Yeah, that's great.
I do a wide range of stuff. And so I sort of figured this out over the last 10 years or so, where I just kind of go, no, you're just developing projects.
Yeah.
So it's like, but they're not in just the one area. So at the moment, I'm working on a theatre show with a couple of friends.
Yeah.
Now, that's never going to make us a cent. But it's an amazing group of people I've worked with before, and we're going to love the project. And it's good. It's kind of like, in business terms, it's like promotion.
Yeah.
Because people will see the thing. They'll go, gee, that's really good, and I see you out there, that was a great show, and it's like publicity for yourself, but it's also something I love doing.
It's like a showcase.
But then I'm working on another thing with a mate of mine who he wants to do a kind of impro style thinking on your feet keynote for corporate, at conferences.
Yeah, right.
And I kind of thought about it and went, yeah, actually, it's a really good idea. And so that's another project.
Yeah.
And I've also got this other guy who I've known for years, who lately, I used to write events with him, and now his corporate video company's taken off, and he does a lot of online content for Channel 7.
Yeah.
So now he's ringing and saying, could you write me a script for this? Could you write me a script for that? So they're all projects.
Yeah.
But if I had to have a card that said what I did, or a website, I get confounded and I go, where do you start?
That's why you struggle to actually explain who you are, because it's so varied. There's so many things that you're involved with.
But and it's partly because I had the different skills in different areas.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I sometimes think it's like I'm not really big. Sorry if I offend anybody who's listening. I'm not big on cricket. I watch it occasionally and go, it's all right.
Yeah.
I've got friends who are mad about it.
Yeah.
I can follow it a bit. But I was listening to one of them saying that an all-rounder, someone who bats and bowls and that, they take a lot longer to develop.
Yes.
If someone's just great at a batsman or batting, great. They can be amazing. Bowler, amazing. But a really strong all-rounder can mature like mid-career rather than early. And I think that's kind of what happened to me, like a bit of varied skills. And then so you develop one and then the other, and then you move around backwards and forwards. And so in a way, I think I'm blessed in a weird way, because I'm still in the industry doing lots of different things. And you put it together and you've got a professional income. It's like, and yet I have the freedom to develop stuff and hang out with interesting people and do. I mean, you were talking about being in a band. It's the same thing of being, just being able to play and work with people in a different ways. It makes life pretty special at times.
I think it makes it interesting and exciting, and I guess when people sort of pigeonhole themselves into a particular career path and whatnot. I mean, for some people it works fine. They love the stability and the reliability of it all. But I've always been fascinated with that whole freelance lifestyle, where I guess that old school and older generation perspective of securing a job, reliable income, and then everything that comes off it, you can stabilise your life around that reliability, that career. And
there's something to be said for it, because I see friends who've done that, and they've locked away all the things that you're supposed to lock away.
Yeah.
Some of them, they got the look of, yeah, what now? Because they didn't like their job that much.
And that's probably why a lot of them go through that crisis at some stage where they're like, oh, what have I done with my life? Well, they've ticked all the boxes early in the piece of the things, the job, the career, house, family or whatnot, and that's all fine, and they're satisfied with it. But after a while, they might sort of have this moment where they go, oh, it seems like I've peaked too early.
However, I would add to that, listening to what you're saying, is that I think everybody does anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you do, you go, what did I do that for?
Yeah.
Oh, no. So the freelance side is you have these periods where you go, I've got 6 things going really well at the moment, and they all went quiet at the same time. Like, really. And then you sit there going, but I'm, wow, oh. And then I remember, and it happens even now, you have these, last year I had this period where it just went weird.
Yeah.
One of the quarters, and just sat there and just went, so how's this Uber thing work? What's the thing? And I'm seriously looking at it going, it's flexible.
Yeah.
The guy I took the Uber with, he was seemed like a nice fellow. He was retired and he had a nice car. I'm like, oh, I'll give this a shot,
That's it.
And then the work comes flowing back in. But you have that moment where you go, I've just completely stuffed this up. I'm an idiot. And then other times where you go, no, this is the best thing in the world.
I kind of like it. I like that. It's that element of risk involved where when, as you said, that scenario where you've got several projects that are all going well and then they all dry up at the same time, you get pushed into a situation where you really have to think outside the box and you think about things that you would never think about. You get creative.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can be sort of that real point of growth where you learn something you never thought you'd ever learn, or you become emotionally stronger or whatever it might be to get through that period until things start to stabilise again.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just will always, for good or for bad, will avoid that period or that circumstance and try and find other ways of, whether it be that stable career path in a job that they probably don't really like that much, but they'll stick to it because they know it's there, it's reliable. It's like the devil that you know.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting conversation topic because sometimes I think it's also like like different breeds of animals or different types of animals. You got one that'll happily sit in a cage and thrive, and another one that'll just smash everything and kill itself smashing its head against a thing, and another one that you can give a big open paddock to.
Yeah.
Another one that has to have a larger area. Another one that will only do this or won't do that. And I think, like when I think of when I was first coming out of school and uni and sort of looking around and trying to get work, I kept sort of, every time I was in the jobs that I was getting, within about 6 months early on, I'd be going,
Yep.
I don't know if this is, and then somebody would suggest do this or that, and I go, I'll try that, and I go, I just should have kept that job, now what do I do? And then I try this and I try that. So, and I don't think there was much command, and I don't think I was standing there, the master of my destiny, go, no, I shall make a decision. It was just like, I can't stand this. I'm not, what are they doing over there? I should give that a go. Whereas I know other guys who just focused, and other women that just focused and just went, no, this is what I want, and I'll do this here, and I know how to work this to get to there. And they were just that kind of beast. And I just admire them and go, wow. A friend of mine, first girlfriend I ever had, she was so focused. She was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this, get through it, get it done, get the high marks. Early days of what's IT now is called computing science.
Yeah.
She said, this is the future. And I went, really? I suppose. Off she goes. Just stepping stone to stepping stone, focus, moving. You got to admire it.
Do you think that from your perspective, do you have a little bit of that sort of attention deficit disorder where it's like you can only focus on something for a short period of time, and then you feel like, as you said with that job scenario, being somewhere for 6 months and then suddenly going, I've got itchy feet, I need to find something else to be engaged with?
I generally, actually, less so attention deficit. I know, I only say this because I've got a friend who's got attention deficit disorder. It's like, that's really weird, man. It's like, you watch him and you just go, do you ever stop looking? They look at you funny.
Yeah.
And I look at him and I go, Ollie, mate, what's up? And he goes, oh, sorry. Because he's sitting there and listening to you and 3 other conversations while thinking about something else, because his brain can do that. And he goes, I should have taken my meds today. So I don't do that.
Not to that extreme. No.
But what I noticed is probably just project oriented.
Yep.
If you give me a project to do,
you can see an end date.
I love setting things up. Yep. I remember even with TV shows and stuff, when there was a pilot for a show and I get called in, a couple of us get called in to work on the writing for the pilot, and it turned into a long running show. I loved it when it was like working it out, setting it up. How's this going to work? Oh, that's a good idea. That doesn't work. I loved the setting up and the working it out. And once it became the formula, now we got it. Yeah, we just need to fiddle with it and keep it alive for 3 years.
Yeah.
That's when I'd start going, it's kind of a bit boring now. Whereas other guys I work with would be really stressed in that figuring out period, because it's like, Christ, what's this about? We've got to find it.
Yeah.
But once it's settled into, that's that segment, we've got to write that segment, this is the comedy bit, this is that kind of, once it was settled in, they went, cool. Yeah. Now I know what we're doing. They felt good.
As you said, it's those different breeds of people. Everyone can tune into a particular scenario, and everyone's got strengths and weaknesses in different areas.
I like building stuff and working stuff out.
Yeah.
I like. Don't get me wrong. If something's going well, I like doing it. But there's something fun about trying to work something out.
Yeah. Did so you mentioned sort of writing for television and whatnot was one of the earlier things that you were doing?
Yeah, I did that, like a lot of that years ago. What would that have been? In the sort of in the 80s into the 90s.
Yep.
And
Is that what you wanted to do initially?
No, just fell into it. It was like I just said. There's years and years ago. There was this guy called Don Lane, an American.
Yeah.
And he had this show, but it wasn't it was towards the end of his career. And a friend of mine was on the writing team, about 5 guys, of this thing called Late Night Oz.
Yep.
Which was him. I think it was this weird show where he was hosting, but he was taking calls.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit like what Larry King in America is.
Yep.
He was giving it a crack. And it didn't really work because he was at the end of his career, people didn't like him that much.
Yeah.
So literally, it's hilarious. Literally, because it's I think there still is. It was live. There's about a 10-second delay from what goes out to what's received, so they can cut things out.
Yeah.
It was not uncommon. So it's like, hi, Dunlane here, you got something to say to Australia? Or something like that. And the caller would go, you fucking prick. Bloody go home, you yank. And he'd be like, he had a temper. He'd swear back at them in 6 seconds, because he knew he had 6 seconds before he was caught. And he'd just say something really vile and hang up and wouldn't get caught.
The guys working in the team would be like, quick, get rid of it.
They would, but we'd all think it was kind of funny at the time. But there were a lot of comedy segments on the show because it was live, and there's a couple of comics and whatever. So there was a team of about 5 of us, and they were really good people. It was the first writing job I ever had. And they were just looking for a young guy to join the team. And I'd worked with this guy doing theatre sports at Impro, and he said, come on board, you can do this.
Yeah.
So, that lasted for about 6 months. And then that was gone. And there weren't other jobs like it around at the time. So maybe 2 years later, I got a call up, get my ears out for those kind of jobs, and then worked for 2 or 3 years on various light entertainment shows.
Okay.
Yeah. Candid Camera on Australia.
Oh, God.
Things like this.
There's my childhood.
Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So I didn't want to do that, but if it became, if that would have become a life, then I would have. But again, a lot of network work wasn't for me. I remember once I got a job on, they were bringing out, these guys I'd worked with were bringing out the Australian version of that quiz show Catchphrase.
Okay,
with
yeah.
Baby John Burgess.
Yes,
right? So I knew the guy, and he said, help us write the here's the English tapes. Let's work Australian version, just a pilot for him. And I worked on it and met Baby John Burgess. And he'd apparently been difficult in his earlier years.
Right.
But this was one of his later projects, and he was very happy to be there. So he's a lovely guy, and worked there for a few months developing it. That was great. And then the show went. They loved it. And it started. And I actually had another job when the season started.
Yep.
And I remember going, damn. Because it went for 10 years. It was a 10-year job writing for that, if I just hung in there. But then, because I knew the people, I used to drop in for other projects and see them, and I remember just going, I dodged a bullet. Because the guy who had that job, I mean, basically, he was... I mean, if he's listening, he'd probably just go, that's bullshit. But to me, it looked like a day a week's work, strung out over 5 days, running a small team that you didn't need running, overseeing something that oversaw itself, coming up with some fun catchphrases and ideas, and you just go... You're just sitting on your ass for 10 years, pulling a wage. Now, he would have been really happy. And I remember seeing him, he's a nice guy, and he'd be swanning around, and I'd just go, you don't do anything. And to me, I thought, I dodged a bullet. Whereas someone else would have gone, the best job in the universe.
That's right. I don't have to do too much. Easy content, easy creation of content.
And he was a smart guy.
Yeah.
And he was more than capable. He was 10 times smarter than the job.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't hard for him. And he had a cool gig.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I looked at it as being like, oh, thank God I didn't get stuck with that. Because I would have been sucked in if I'd hard to leave.
A bit like that sliding doors moment. You just happened just to make one decision at one point in time that took you on a different path.
Yeah, I mean, have you found that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Lots of things. Things that I, in the past where initially I'd look at it and regret a decision that I've made. I've missed something. But then 5 years later, I realised that decision that I initially regretted end up leading to so much more, and you end up going, everything. People say they've got no regrets, and I kind of understand why people say it, because everything leads to where you are right now. So I can't regret a decision, or if I decide to go down one other path, then I could be a completely different person, and it might be okay, it might be fine, it might be better, it might be worse, who knows. So it's but there's been plenty of times where you sort of sit there at a point and go, did I make the right decision?
Yeah. It's a real philosophical.
It is
sort of. It's like it's down the rabbit hole on that one, because it's because you are who you are.
Yep.
So if you regret anything, then you almost like you instantly vanish. It's like one of those time things where you go, you change anything, you just cease to exist.
Yeah.
In the moment. But then what if you'd been standing there, and in a moment of rage you hit the accelerator and sort of did something stupid.
Yeah.
You'd be regretting that, but then maybe the depth of the experience you get out of it. But I mean, in the end, it's like you're just here, which is a lot of what this project I'm working on at the moment is about. A bit of a fashionable topic, but being in the moment, in the now, and that idea that the past is remembered nows. And the future is imagined nows, but nothing has ever existed except right now.
Yep.
So even Roman times happened like now.
That's right.
And the fact that people remembered it, wrote it down, and we have a version of that memory.
That's right.
Is history, but it never happened in history. It happened kind of now.
Yeah.
With people like us sitting around going, "Oh, what are you going to do?"
Yeah, that's right.
We have to attack those Spartans, do we? Or the Romans or the Greeks,
Yeah.
They're going to give us a hard... I suppose we have to.
That's it.
It all happens
the story
now.
keeps changing in the moment all the time.
Yeah, and that's a bizarre concept when delved into.
Yeah, it could do your head in.
Yeah, and it goes back to what you're saying. It's like you could have regrets, but then what does that mean?
Yep.
It happened now, and this is happening now, and you manage that best. I mean, the thinking behind all that now stuff is to try and be a little bit more aware of the now.
Yep.
As opposed to living with your mind running away into the past or thoughts of the future. But that's a human dilemma, isn't it? That's human not dilemma. It's a human condition.
It is. It's something that this podcast for the last couple of years, it's a buzz topic of mine, and I'm always, I don't know if it's my personality or whatever it is, but I'm always thinking about the next thing. And I could be sitting down and having a conversation with somebody, but I'm thinking about an appointment or something that's happening later on that day, and I've got this underlying level of stress that's sitting there because I can't quite get comfortable. I'm thinking about something else. And so I'm taking in a little bit of what's being said, and like, yeah. And then later on you go, I regret not being a bit more in the moment and a bit more intentional with that conversation I had with somebody. But then the more I talk to other people, the more I see it's very common. And it seems to be, as you said, it's a human condition, and we're always we're in autopilot as well.
Or autopilot, and is it people with more imagination have more anxiety? Because you sit there and you go, like I'll just sit there and go, I got to do that, And immediately my mind will start imagining all the stupid things that could go wrong. I have to take care of, I have to make sure. And you go, you're not even close yet, but you're already painting, you're already making it an obstacle course with disastrous possibilities. And a friend of mine said, that's why you keep going, you do so well. Yep. Because you keep imagining the pitfalls, planning and being ready, and that way you can deliver really well. Whereas other people just go, I should be all right? Sort of go,
well, and the other thing is that you're doing that, but you're also actually making that first step. So other people would be thinking about all the possible scenarios, but then they won't make that first step because the fear takes over. And 9 times out of 10, what you think is going to be the reality, the consequence never actually happens.
True.
It's that first step, and a lot of people just never take the first step.
But I tell you what, fear, man, it's a driver, isn't it? It's just, and it is. It's like, all that stuff. Face your fear and do it anyway. But I mean, from a kid, I was a bit timid when I was young, and always thought that I was never outgoing. So to me, being constantly in positions where I'm in front of people, training, teaching, performing, is the exact opposite of my personality, which is
interesting. Yeah.
Introverted.
Wow. Hides.
And is constantly worried and fearful.
What changed it? Was there something in particular, or was it just gradual?
Nothing changed it. It's still there. It's
hard to believe.
No, it's true.
Well, from the outside, anyway.
Yeah, people say that, and it's part of being tall, and sometimes not showing a lot.
Yep.
But no, it took me. What other people just did, I'll give that a shot. I'd be like, oh my God. It'd take me so much to get there. Yeah. So much like, got to get past this, got to do this. Come on, I can do this. You can do this. No, I can't. And then literally you need to be hurled into it. And then going, I can do this.
Do you think, this might be over-analysing it, but is there something, do you know what that little thing was that got you over the line to actually take that step in those situations where you're so, you're panicking about getting out of your comfort zone?
I remember when I was younger, it was like, it was a bit dramatic. I'd be overthinking everything, and I go, well, if I don't do this, it's the end of my life, man. It's the end. I just have to. I got to overcome this. Yeah. So it was this big thing, like I just have to try. Otherwise, what's the point? There's always like these big hurdles in front of me. But and then other times it's been. I remember once when I remember when I first got offered work writing in TV. I remember going, I can't do this. And then someone said to me, they said, well, they are. The only difference between them and you is that they're doing it, you're not. And I went, yeah, but they're good at it. And they went, maybe. They just have the job. And I kind of went, well, somebody's got to be doing it.
Yeah.
So often I just go, come on, give it a try. And but that, some things I've done have been spectacular failures where you just go, well, that was stupid.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's there's certainly that's a very good question. What makes you step out and push?
Because most people would, well, a lot of people would be in that same situation where you're too scared to break out, and you're too scared of the failure or being a phony, or and most people will just retract back to whatever's safe. And there's very few people. I mean, overall, when you look at everybody as a whole, there's very few people that actually will make that final step and actually go over the line and try something.
I think it might be just being a little bit nuts, sort of, having too anxious.
Yeah.
So it just means I probably many times in my life just got to that point where I went, I can't take it. I have to do it. I have to do this. Otherwise, I'll go nuts. I have to know.
Yeah.
Whereas other people might have gone,
Yeah.
So maybe it's maybe that it's a two-edged sword. Sometimes being had a difficult upbringing, so sometimes it's like that kind of anxiety that you've got and things that are the things that hold you back can often be the things that also propel you.
Yep.
Hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's what you make of it.
Yeah.
But it's a similar situation I find in myself where I think about something and initially I'll dismiss it and I go, no, that's too hard, or that's too much, or I don't want to expose myself, so to speak, or be vulnerable. And then I sit on the thought and I sit on it so much that the consequence of not doing it is so great and so horrible that the only way to escape this feeling is to dive in and do it.
Yeah.
And that's taken a long time because I used to convince myself that it's okay, I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I didn't even know what happened, but it got to a point where now I start getting out of my comfort zone because I feel that I have to. I feel I've got no choice. I've got to do it, otherwise I'll live a life of regret. It'll eat at me.
I agree. And that's a pretty strong motivator. It's a kind of a negative motivator.
It is. I was going to say, I don't know how healthy it is, but it seems to work at times.
Sometimes it's like, it has, I'll go nuts if I don't do this. I do know people that get up in the morning or have and go, wow, this is what I want to do. I can't wait to do it. I'm afraid, but that's even more incentive. How exciting. Oh, I achieved that. What's my next achievement? I'm going to plan my life with the mountains I will climb. I know people who do this, and they're annoying.
Yeah, I was going to say there's, and then somewhere else there's a screw loose. Something is not quite right there.
Yeah.
They break down in other areas.
Yeah, but like I'm thinking of a particularly well-known woman who's just so driven, you just want to slap her. You just go, oh, shut up. So there's too much ego there.
Yeah.
And it's annoying.
Yeah.
So it becomes a difficult personal trait.
Yeah.
Another friend of mine, this guy who in the business is such an achiever. Again, you look at him and you scratch your head and you just go, well, I suppose so. But he's... Oh, I'm thinking of another guy. No, it's interesting when you think of all the people that do that. And I know another guy who's done... He makes films. He's a lawyer. He decided to be a lawyer at 40 because he was sick of having to hire lawyers for his films.
Very cool. Okay.
So he does 1,000 things at once.
Wow.
And no one could figure out quite how or why. But one day I caught up with him. I spoke to him, it was early in the morning.
Yeah.
And I said, what are you doing? And he said, oh, sorry, I can't help it. I get up in the morning and I have to go to my computer and just, work it out. Somehow get things happening. I just have to. And I went, that's the secret.
There you go.
He wakes up going, and he said he always feels like there's something, if he goes travelling, he's got to look at all the Lonely Planets and the books and the websites and everything because he's got this nightmare of being somewhere and finding out later he was 100 metres away from the most amazing thing and he didn't check it out.
Oh, what a way to live.
So he's always got to find where the juice is.
It's that fear of missing out on something. Yeah,
a massive fear of missing out. What a motivator for him.
It's incredible. I mean,
that's another motivator.
You channel it the right way, and you can achieve so much. But
extraordinary.
But if you're waking up with this sense of anxiety that you've got to try and work it out every day, then I don't know.
But he gets shit done.
It does. Yeah. Wow. It's incredible. A question I got. I'm going to try my best with my professional segueing.
Aha.
Yeah.
Are we going to, what do they call pivot?
Pivot. Yes, that's right. There you go. With the corporate training events that you do, and there's a whole range of different things that you do depending on what you're asked to do.
Yeah.
You would come across, and I'm just thinking about the event that I went to and where I met you, and you did this, I can't remember what it was called, but it was almost like an energized session to get after lunch, and everyone usually falls down, goes down the hill and has this mid-afternoon zone out feeling, and there's not much information being absorbed, and what you were there for is to basically slap us around and get the blood moving again.
Yes, and get people communicating a bit more freely, getting their minds open and thinking fast.
Yeah, and it definitely worked. And the other thing that I noticed is the progression from when it began, and I noticed that, and I don't know if this is intentional, but there was almost like a sort of a teacher-student beginning to the session where you had to really make sure to keep everyone in line. There's almost a strict feeling, and you felt like, oh God, I'm back at school, I don't want to get in trouble. You made sure that people were putting things down, moving away from certain areas, standing in certain positions, but really, and calling people out on it as well. And then, so suddenly, and you got different personalities within the group. Some people are like, absolutely, yeah. I'm here, I'm ready, I'm excited. And other people are like, don't care. This is this whole day is a waste of time, whatever. But in that first part of that session, you really sort of slapping people around and getting them into line, almost like a drill instructor in a way. And then you start doing these activities, and by the end of it, smiles. Everyone's smiling, everyone's almost on the same page and enjoying themselves. But there's these different periods throughout that session where you go from herding the cattle together and then breaking them initially to really push them outside their comfort zone. Because even for me, I'm like, really? Like, you want me to do charades or whatever with my body with 3 other people and try and come up with, a fork or a spoon or whatever.
Yes, that activity. Yep.
Yeah, but things that you wouldn't normally do, especially with work colleagues. It was always this sense of professionalism, and no one really exposes themselves or is vulnerable, and no one really has fun in that sense. So to begin with, there's that real sort of awkwardness, but by the end of it, it completely changes. So what I'm trying to say, and that was a very long explanation about that. But
I was really interested to hear, actually, because, yep, good.
Yeah, and talking about different personalities, do you find that you have to approach yourself differently with, so you've got a corporate team of people that you're trying to instruct and all try and do the same thing, but do you have to change your tactic with certain people in the group depending on their personality and their body language? So you've got certain people that are very reserved, a bit standoffish, a bit defensive, other people that are they almost want to take over, control the thing, extroverts. And
it's totally. You got to be. There's no. Even though we've got the lesson plan, the curriculum, so to speak, the agenda for the session.
Yeah.
It's people, and you've really got to be on your toes from the first second. So when you say that kind of slightly strict feel, it's a little bit like you got to crack the whip so the horses line up. Otherwise, people will just stand there and not do anything. So, and there are some people in a room who you just go, okay, everybody, let's line up here, and they do it and they don't even know why. Because someone told them to. And there's others who are programmed to go, why should I? And this can be like from a junior to a top exec. Like some of the most disruptive people could be just somebody really high up who goes, I can take you. No one tells me what to do. And they just play interference and essentially become like the school brat. And if they can get away with it, and so can everybody else. And so, you start off by, it's a kind of a general approach of, okay, everybody, let's get up. No questions asked. We're doing this. Here you come. Down you get. I know. All right. This is going to be a bit whatever. This is going to be that. Some of you will love it. Some of you will find this uncomfortable. Ha, 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 you. And you're waiting. I literally wait to see what pops up in the room. So it's like playing a game.
Well, I think.
And you wait for the person to go, and there's always one in the group who starts going, I'm funnier than anyone else. I'm the joker. Listen to me. And you go, good. And if you give them too much rope, they'll wreck it. They'll make it clear that no one has to follow anything. So you got to acknowledge them, laugh along with them. Go add to their joke, acknowledge them, make them feel good, and then close them down.
That's it. Keep them on a tight leash.
And then you got to look at the others going, that person looks like they're panicking. I really have to jolly them up a little bit. And I'll literally just, looking around the room, see somebody who's got that funny look. And it's instinctive, a lot of it. You got to go by your gut instinct. And I'll go, so what's your name, mate? And he goes, Gerald. And I go, you see what Gerald did there? He put his hands up like that and he did that. That was amazing because it was just so fast. And he was, were you thinking? He goes, no. He goes, yes. So if we could just kind of like get that, and I'll walk away. And all I've done is buzzed him. All I've done is kind of gone, given a bit of pat on the shoulder because it looked like he needed it.
Thank you.
And then he's kind of gone, you can almost see him like sweating a bit, that funny red cheek thing where it's like, I'm getting a bit of attention. I didn't expect that. I did good. And it's like you've given a kid the gold star in the class.
Suddenly they're engaged.
And slowly you work it. And look, sometimes you have a room full of people that just won't engage. And it's a slow process. Sometimes you walk in the room and go, hey, does anybody want to? Oh my God, they've all jumped in. They all want to do it. It's a bunch of loudmouth salespeople who just go, this will be a bit of fun. And you go, whoa, what? And other times you're in the room and they're all just standing there going, you can feel the vibe. It's just like, so, Mr. Whoever you are, why should I care? And how long will this last?
That's right.
And why can't I look at my phone?
Oh, that's the killer, that one.
And you just go, right. But as you say, you work it. and you have to adapt really fast. And generally it works.
Yeah.
But generally you're appealing to people's common sense, a lot of it.
It's interesting. Yeah, I think you might have mentioned in that session, or whether I read it when I was doing a bit of internet stalking, you did sort of crowd work for TV shows. Did you?
Yeah, I still do it occasionally.
Yeah.
That
it'd be a similar scenario in a way. You'd have to sort of read people.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's a weird job.
Yeah.
I still do it for a show called The Living Room.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
So that's that show with...
Yeah.
That was the last time I was going to do it. It was about 6 years ago when that show started.
Yeah.
I'd done... a friend of mine and myself used to regularly do the audience warm-up, as they call it, for Funniest Home Videos on Channel 9. And a long time ago, it's really well paid.
Yep.
Like, it's stupidly well paid.
Right.
And no one wants to do it. Because it should be a stand-up comic job.
Yeah.
But if you're a stand-up comic, you've got a bunch of jokes. But then who shows up at a TV show? Old people, young people, anybody shows up. And if you walk out
the humour levels are so different.
Yeah. And if your jokes don't work on them, what are you going to do for the next 2 hours?
That's right, yeah.
Or if your jokes are like a bit blue, very sort of in-your-face club stuff, edgy, it's not going to work then.
No.
So because I did a lot of improv hosting of comedy shows, theatre sports shows, where you interact with the crowd a lot more, people would see that and say, get that guy over. And so I figured out a way, because I don't tell jokes really. Yeah. I'm not a stand-up comic. I just kind of interact and mess with the crowd and off-the-cuff joking, talking to people, making jokes about what's happening. And totally right. No, I still do The Living Room as the last one, because they're such nice people. They're actually really nice people. But there's a lot of training in. I used to call it the worst job I ever had. It was just like, why am I doing this? Because it's a quiet couple of months and it's there and it's good money. So I always keep it in reserve. It's like,
and I guess a lot of people wouldn't do it because you're exposed in front of a room full of people and all eyes are on you and everyone knows what you're there for.
And nobody cares because they want to see the stars of the show.
You're in between them and actually the entertainment that they're there for. Yeah.
So they're like, oh, what do you got? Oh, shut up.
Act.
Yeah. If that. But if it works, they all go, oh, thanks, mate. Yeah, great. You got us through that. Oh, I don't know how we would have done without you. But that was... it's a hard job to do, actually.
Yeah. Would you have a structure in your mind as to, even though you wouldn't come in with jokes as such, but would you have some sort of structure as to, if all else failed...
Yeah, there's a routine about stuff you do. But years ago when I did it, I used to try and really structure it out, have plans and fallback plans and lists of things I could try. And quite a while ago, I remember going into Channel 9 and... I hadn't had a moment. I came for another job. I had no time to think about it. And I sort of went, oh, God, this is going to be a really long record. Be stuck out there in front of... And I remember sitting there thinking, well, nothing you've planned has worked before. just wing it.
Yeah.
And I've taken that for years now. It's like when in front of an audience like that, there's a whole bunch of things you can do, muck it around with them. But ultimately, you have to wing it off them. There are stupid games you can play with them, things you get people to do, ways of interacting, questions you can ask, ways you set it up. But and that's because of the improv background I've got, improvising, where the key is not to plan. So in improvisation, which is what I've done for 20, 30 years on stage, people think that Whose Line Is It Anyway, all those shows, people think that they're planning it. The best work happens when you don't plan it.
Yeah. If you overthink something, that's when you go blank, I guess.
The skill is to let go of that part of the brain.
Yeah, wow.
To just go, conscious brain, slow and stupid, process things very, very slowly.
Yeah.
Unconscious brain, very fast.
Yeah.
And you've got to be ready to just do what the impulse says.
Would you always be worried that you'd say something inappropriate because you...
you do anyway, you do. It's like the amount of times you go, and people just look at you and say, what was that about? Okay. Well, you look at someone else and go, you had a moment, didn't you? And they go, oh, Jesus, what did that really come out of my mouth? But, that's the training. The training in improv is is to get rid of the filters and to get rid of the worries and the censoring part of your brain, and to learn to trust your instincts.
It's a very scary thing.
Yeah, but it's a reverse kind of thing, because it takes years for people to get good at it.
Yep.
But once you get there, you realise that your best friend is not knowing rather than knowing. Which is strange.
Right.
Which is strange, but and you have to be totally in the moment. Whatever comes at you, you respond to that. And if you're with someone who's doing the same, it works like magic, and it looks amazing to watch.
So with a lot of these events or improv nights or whatnot that you would do, would you be given a topic or something that you would riff off initially?
Yeah. See, there's a lot of
it all change.
There's a lot of games you learn.
Yeah.
Like, fun games that you can play.
Yeah.
Where they have, there's really silly ones where there's restrictions, like you got to speak in rhyming couplets, or you've got to. Each person that speaks starts the sentence with the next letter of the alphabet, or someone provides the arms for somebody else. So they're like theatre sports games, and they're just funny to watch.
Yeah.
And you learn the game, but what you say and where it goes is fresh each time.
Yeah, right.
Based on a suggestion or a topic or an idea. And then we do a lot of more open shows. Like, we do this one show that we've been doing for years. It's a Shakespeare improv show. Mm-hmm. And we just ask for the last one, just a profession to start it off. So, okay, we're in Elizabeth in England, we're hanging out with which profession? And someone suggests it, okay, and we start, and we've got a structure for what we want from the first scene, the type of scene. We want to explore the world and become those characters. Second scene has to come out of that and have two characters or three, and one of them has to establish themselves as the hero, protagonist or heroine, and the third scene has to be somewhere totally different, so we get a subplot, and then we let it roll from there.
Wow.
And so that's got some structure.
Yeah.
Other ones have got much more structure. Some, like in a theatre sports night or a game night where there's lots of different scenes, you might ask for an idea for each scene.
Yes, okay.
Where do we want this set? Or this scene about people breaking up. Why are they breaking up? Because of this. This is about that, and away you go.
Quite interactive.
Yeah. And other ones you just ask for something at the top and just roll.
Wow. So I guess with a lot of it, there's probably behind the scenes, like the structure underneath, there's some sort of storyboard behind it as far as a plot. Sometimes. But sometimes it's just nothing at all.
So we're doing a version of Romeo and Juliet now.
Yeah.
And we're going to follow the plot loosely.
Yeah.
So that's plotted.
Yeah.
Other ones we just go, we generally know the way these things go.
Yeah.
But we don't know what's going to happen.
Wow.
So, early on you figure out whether we're all on a quest, or whether the kingdom's in trouble and someone has to leave and do something or something.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's quite obvious.
Yep.
It becomes like, that actually was a pretty sensible plot. It was almost like the real thing. And other times you're mid-show going, what's going on?
It's just out of control.
I remember there was one hilarious one. And sometimes it goes to a plot nicely and it's boring.
Yep.
Because we go, someone should have done something different. But sometimes it goes to plot and it's beautiful. It's like, how do we pull that off? And sometimes it goes crazy and it's a disaster. And it's like, we just tried to get to the end without dying. And other times it's crazy and it's like the best night you've ever had.
Yeah, wow.
There's one night where, for some reason, we were, I don't know where the offer came from the audience, but the only way to save the kingdom, because the king had died and there was an evil king, was to go to the underwater world to find out, to get help. We're like, okay, because you got to get the idea of improv, you go with the offer. You go, yeah, sure, great. So then, next scene, one of the guys is playing King Neptune of the underwater world, and then a few scenes later, there's 5 of us in a fish brothel. We're all playing women with fish tails, but it's a brothel, and it was insanely funny. Like, it wasn't rude. It was just like the girls, hanging around, a bit bored, but it was underwater, and 5 men playing fish, and the women in the play were the ones with the customers, and it was just the strangest scene, but it was hysterical. And we didn't know when we came off and went, what the hell was that all about?
From where you started to where you've ended, just polar opposites.
So that was a ridiculous one. I remember once we said no anachronistic stuff. It all has to happen in the time period.
Okay.
And then we ended up with a Doctor Who thing in time machines, just shuttling backwards and forwards in time, which was hilarious. So, it's a mixture of structure and unplanned, but I think the beauty of improvisation, thinking on your feet, is that it's for a lot of people it's counterintuitive. They think, oh, you must have worked something out. And yeah, you do rehearse and practice and practice and rehearse. But ultimately, it's if you're really totally in the moment, focused exactly on what the person just did, said, or created, or physically did, and you work with that without any pre-thought, it's amazing what a human will do under those circumstances, and it creates some quite beautiful work. And it's much richer than the planned bits.
Yeah, I tell you what, it scares a lot of people.
Yeah, but it's also a drug, because you get all these people who come along to our classes. We do run all these classes, and they go, I just wanted to, build my confidence, and just a bit of public speaking. I thought this would be. A mate of mine did it, and he said it was really fun, and it is. It's a lot of fun to do. I mean, that's the first thing. The exercises, once you get into them, are actually quite fun. Yeah. And they do an 8-week course, and then you just look at them, and there's like out of a class of 16. There's about half who've gone, that was good, thanks, bye. And there's, of the other 8, there's about 4 of them who've got that look, like, so when's the next level of classes training? And you go, you've got the bug. And it could be someone who's totally insecure, totally shy, who's just gone, oh man, it's like bungee jumping.
It's kind of like, I just remember being in high school, and there was always the drama kids.
Yeah, and there was always that, and there's always that type.
But it's like any school. You've got the segregated little groups, the jocks, the stoners, the guys that are sort of mixed in between everything, and the troublemakers, and you got the drama students. And I certainly was not a drama student. I was the complete opposite, and I always looked at them and thought they were odd and weird. Always very sort of out there, extroverted. Yep, I remember. Strong personalities, and I remember we had a mandatory drama class for one term, so it was like once a week or whatever it was. And I used to sweat. I just, before it happened, I was just absolutely petrified. And I don't think we had a fantastic drama teacher either, because I think they just pushed you into the deep end straight away. And for a kid, I think you get quite stubborn as well, especially a teenager as well. Totally. So you get very rebellious and don't want to participate. But ever since high school, I've always thought of people that do things like improv and on-stage performance and whatnot. I just think they're the drama students from school. And that's
the thing is, they're not.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing. In fact, some of them are. Yeah. But more often than not in improv, they're the ones who weren't the drama students, or who have got an inkling that way but never did it. Like, I wasn't one of the drama kids at school. Yeah. I thought they were a bit weird, and the art kids were right out there. I was a bit envious because they were so out there, man. And I was a little bit straighter, but I felt I had an ability there. And I noticed a lot of people who love improv are often come from other worlds, who just, it's almost like something I should have done and I never did, and maybe I've got a chance. Whereas with that, I mean, when you grow up, the acting world is it's really hard to be good at it. Even if as a young person you're talented, to actually be really good at it is really hard. Yeah. Even if you do all the years of training, and then once you are like really trained and really good at it, then it's like a numbers game. Are you the right look? Are you the right type? And do you get the breaks? And so to actually be an actor, there's not many people who can pull that off. But there's a lot of people who always wanted to perform, who always looked across the fence going, I'm not like that, who'll come to improv and suddenly go, I can do this. And then they get the bug, and then they hang out. They hang out in the scene for years. I've liked this. The improv scene is really interesting because in any improv group anywhere in the world, you've got, and it's all over the world, every city, and many cities, quite a few companies. You've always got the top few people who are like pretty professional, like they've been doing it for years, and they might be also working in theatre and TV, and they do a lot of improv shows, and they do it almost for a living. And then you've got everybody else of all levels of standards who are just happy to get stage time, who are just excited, do the classes, get on stage, have jobs. They're not. This is not what they're planning to do with their lives, but they're always doing it. They're obsessed with it. And we've got, over the years, tons of people who just always around looking for a show, doing the latest classes. And they're not professional. They're not there to become.
It's quite interesting because I think you're right. I think there's a lot of people out there that go, I'd love to be able to. I love the idea of being an actor or a performer or being able to entertain other people and have, even if it's like a bit of an ego thing of having the recognition or whatnot. But no one would ever take any first steps because there's that fear of being exposed in front of others and being judged and what other people think. But there's one person. He's actually been on the podcast, David Teague, and he lives in Melbourne now, but he used to do improv in Surrey Hills. Now, he's an interesting guy because, and I relate to him quite a bit because years and years ago, he wrote a book called something like 52 ways of, it became a version 52 times or something like that. And what it was a challenge for a year to do a different thing every week for the year. And totally go out of his comfort zone.
Wow.
So he did speed dating one night. I think he did parachuting, he did surfing.
That's exhausting,
all these.
You do a lot of stuff.
Crazy, absolutely crazy. It was an amazing book. And one of these things was improv and drama. And he was an introvert and somebody that he just could not even fathom the thought of doing this.
Right.
And he did it. And now, like, I think the other day I've got him on Facebook and I saw a picture of him there's a picture of an advertisement of some theatre play that he's a part of, and he's naked on it, holding something across his privates. And this is a guy that, even in his books that he's written, is very self-conscious about himself and whatever. And he's just gone from somewhat zero to whatever.
Doing something like that. It's amazing, isn't it?
Absolutely incredible.
You just don't know.
It's amazing, and it's inspiring in a way because you just want to take that step with whatever it is. It's just incredible.
And then some people don't. I don't know. Some people want to take a step. I've always wanted to just try different things, but then again, there's some things I know I just wouldn't go there.
Like what?
You see, you play. You play. So, I, all through my 20s, teens and 20s, everyone I knew played guitar.
Okay.
I didn't play anything. So, for 1,000 years, I used to sit around and, mostly people stoned, just watching people just play bloody guitars. And you kind of maybe try and sing along a little bit or just hang there and go, man, that's really great, yeah. And then I think I was about 29 or something like that, 30. I literally, my girlfriend, she played guitar and said, just show me some chords. Like, surely I can just... And I picked up a guitar and started learning chords. And all these years later, every day I play guitar.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I strum, play things, tabs off the internet, learn another song, do all that kind of stuff. Singing voice, okay. Not much of a range, but within my range, I can pull it off a little bit. I've gone from struggling to play a few chords to being quite a reasonable rhythm guitarist. And occasionally in improv shows and things where they do some musical numbers where I've gone, I'll do the guitar behind you and manage to carry it off. So in my mind, there's always this fantasy of playing live, just that experience, which you'd know quite a lot. You've been in a band for 11 years. And yet I've come to the realization that, you can't really sing and you can't play guitar that well. So it's not going to happen unless I was playing with people who are particularly not good. And occasionally we've done this thing with a few friends of ours where we get together to play music and nobody can play particularly well. And an afternoon of that, and it's like you're only allowed to come if you can't play, or if you're good on an instrument, you've got to play an instrument you're not good at.
Okay.
Otherwise it's like, what's the point? We're able to keep up. But that's as close as I get. So with that kind of stuff, it's like, I'd really like to. Yeah, well, you've tried hard, but
it's interesting.
Your fingers can only do so much. And when I try and get more complicated or learn to pick or whatever, it's just like it's okay.
Yeah.
But nobody would pay to hear that.
Well, I know a lot of people out there that play music, and they've gotten away with it. So I think there's always a chance. There's always a hope. You never know.
But people tell me that's like I've had so many people tell me, they go, "Oh, yeah, I used to play in a band. It's the most awesome thing in the universe."
Yeah.
To be playing, and everyone just when it all works, that it's just like, you know. I mean, I had one guy, one of the most straightest corporate dudes you'll ever meet, Indian fellow in a suit. And he's going, "Marko, I used to play in a band." And I go, "You?" And he goes, "Oh, yes, I used to play in a band." "Oh, really?" And he's, yeah, for about 10 years when I was in my 20s. Really? While you said, "Oh, I was still corporate," but, you know, eventually I let it go. And I said, "No," I said, "Was it hard to let it go?" It's the hardest thing in the world to let it go, but I had to because of family and that. "What kept you going?" And he said, and his Indian accent, "I can't do it." He said, "It was better than sex." Playing live music.
It's pretty incredible.
Really?
Yeah.
But it is amazing when you play it.
It's that energy. People. I'm sure you'd have similar feelings.
In an improv show, yes.
Yeah, connecting with the audience, especially, and it'd be different for every show. Some nights you go in there and the crowd, you have to really put the extra effort in to get the crowd going, and some nights you would go in there and the room's already buzzing. And it's very easy to get them engaged and get them moving.
But
and
that must be why you've been there doing it for 10 years, 11 years in the band. It's just an amazing feeling.
Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. And sometimes you get on stage and you just go, "Oh my God, what am I doing here? Like, surely there's something better in life than this." And it's just this horrible crowd, or there's no one there. But then those shows where it's just packed and you feel the energy before you even walk out, it's incredible. But it's one of those things where, going back to the scenario of people wanting to try improv for the first time and being the introvert and whatnot, for me, I remember the first time I got up on the stage in front of people, I couldn't move. Wow. I had to sort of pivot off one foot to try and move to keep my legs from falling asleep because I was so nervous that my legs had just completely gone numb, couldn't feel them, and I thought I was going to fall over. I was just that nervous, and every time I hit a wrong note, I would make this really dramatic face that everyone could see that I'd actually stuffed up. And I remember I got some constructive feedback afterwards. I'm like, "Oh God, I don't think I'll ever do this again." And then the next time was actually I joined the band that I was in now, and I'd moved from Brisbane to Sydney, and we had our first show with this new lineup, and it was a big deal, but it was also like my second ever live show, and we actually played at the old Empire Hotel.
Oh yeah, down there.
When it used to be a music venue,
right.
And
there's two there. That one on the top and the one down the bottom used to be the what's it called? It
was the Annandale Hotel.
The Annandale down the bottom.
Yeah.
Which used to be the old style where it's just bands.
That's
and
right.
the Empire at the top of the hill, bands.
That's right, yeah.
That was the coolest little nub in the,
it was
in the universe.
It was fantastic for quite a few years.
Yeah.
But that, I was so paranoid about the last experience, and I'm trying to work out how I didn't want to be in that same position again, because we really had to. There's a lot of pressure on. People were there, they knew who that we were, they knew some of the music that we were playing, and they didn't really know who I was. So I felt like I had to prove myself as well. There's a lot of pressure on.
Yeah.
And somebody had told me, I can't remember who it was, but they said, "Oh yeah, I've done it. I've done this before. I reckon the best thing to do is rub some deep heat in your legs, because that'll get that burning sensation in your legs. It'll distract you a little bit, and you'll be distracted by your legs, and then you'll forget about the audience in front of you, and then you'll be okay." So I'm like, okay.
No, I've never heard that before.
I haven't had any better ideas. This is the only idea I've been given.
You tried it.
What could happen? So here I was. The night of the show, we'd loaded in, set up everything, and so I walked off into the bathrooms, and I had this little tube of deep heat, and I rubbed it into.
I don't know where this is going to go.
I rubbed it into my legs, and I put it a little bit in, and I go, "Oh, it's not burning. It's not burning enough. I need to put more on."
Oh no, because it has a slow effect where it catches up. Oh, that's.
I put more and more and more. I overdid it. I was so nervous. I just kept putting in, overcompensating. So I get on stage, and we're ready to go. We're getting ambushed by birds as well.
Yeah.
And the crowd's going. And I'd stunk out the whole Empire Hotel of deep heat, because I pretty much put a whole tube of deep heat on my legs.
No.
And it worked, in the sense that I was so distracted by this heat on my legs, and it was extreme.
It would be, yeah.
Absolutely extreme, but no longer were my legs jello. I wasn't losing any feeling. If anything, I had all feeling in my legs to to the absolute extreme and managed to pull off the show enough. I was still pretty nervous, but it was a hell of a lot better than I was expecting.
So it worked.
It was the first and last time I ever tried that tactic.
Well, you only needed to do it once.
That's it. And then after that, I had enough confidence that I was able to get up on stage, and I knew what I needed to do after that, and it was okay.
But yeah, people assume that people doing anything, whether it's, someone performing, whatever they're performing, or someone delivering a presentation or a speech, or anything, that, I wish I could do that, But the truth is, some people just, elbow other people out of the way to say, me, look at me.
Yeah.
But they're often not that good either.
No.
Some are, some not.
No.
But the stories and the things people go through like that, it's so normal. You just have to. There's no other way.
Well, and for me, I was an introvert. I wasn't somebody that was. I hated the feeling of being in front of people. Whether it was doing oral presentations in school, and that was with the palm cards and reading and writing absolutely every little word on the cards, and
I remember the first time I did in the old days when theatre sports started at Belvoir Street Theatre.
Yes.
It started off as a big activity. They got full houses every Sunday. The theatre had just opened, and every Sunday it was 350 packed. And it was sort of like, anyone wants to give this a try. And I'd been sort of doing some acting around for a few years. Friends of mine said, give it a try. And I gave it a try one night, and it was terrifying. I don't remember doing anything because I'd done acting. I thought, but this is no script. And it was just terrifying when I've got to have another crack. And so I remember the time I got hooked was the second time I did it. Full house. And the scene was, I don't even know what it was about, but it was a 1 or 2 minute scene. It was timed, and it was in a suburban swimming pool. And the other 2 or 3 guys, 2 girls and a guy I was performing with, they were newcomers to this. Everyone just looked at each other like, I got nothing. I just stood there, and I was sort of standing there and went, oh, okay, I got something. So I walked out and I went, for my next dive? No, I didn't say anything. I remember this. I just kind of got myself ready like as if I'm going to dive.
Yep.
And I'm standing going, and in my head going, well, what do I do now? And I went, well, I have to dive. So I did this run up and did in the air, and I managed to slap my hands in front of me as I landed.
Yep.
Landed virtually flat on my face without hurting myself. And then went, and the audience went, ooh. So there's no laughter. There's no just is he all right? And then I got up, sort of shook myself off and went, and brain going, what do I do now? And I found myself walking back and getting ready for another go. And thinking to myself, are you insane?
How many times can I get away with this?
What am I doing? I thought, you could have hurt yourself.
Yep.
And I did it again and landed flat. And this time, I landed sort of strangely and went, oh, my leg. Oh, I think I did my knee. Oh, I didn't, but it just I landed awkwardly. And I got it. And the second time, the audience was sorry for me. You could hear this kind of dead silence and, oh, Jesus, is he all right? And this is when I got hooked. And I just went back to go for a third dive, and I went, if I do a third dive, I'm going to hurt myself. They're going to have to. I thought, what am I doing? This is the most embarrassing moment of my life. And then I just looked up, don't know where it came from, and all I did, you could have heard a pin drop. I just looked up and said, would somebody put some water in this pool? And that's all that came out. It wasn't planned.
Yeah.
It's all I had.
Yeah.
And the place just erupted.
Yeah.
Probably out of relief. Just now it makes sense. And afterwards, people slapped me on the back saying, oh, that's genius. How'd you think about that? I was like, I thought you hurt yourself there. And I remember that glow of, I remember just standing and being stunned. Because I expected a pin to drop, silence, and then could you please leave the stage and go away. That was terrifying. But the reward was so big in that moment that I went, that's it. I've got to figure out how to do this properly. So I started doing classes and whatever. But it was always painful at the beginning. I was terrified. To walk out there going, oh, you've got to be joking. Why am I doing this? Give me a script or something. But this is insane.
That's I've got a memory of when I was in the second grade, and we had a school sleepover. And there was I think the parents were there earlier in the night, and they had a little presentation, some awards and whatnot. And I just bought a BMX bike, and I think this was in that time where you bring everything you own to school for show and tell all the time.
Well, BMX.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's right. So it was me, and there's another kid as well who also just got a bike. We must have been talking about it enough that for whatever reason we wanted to ride our BMXs at this presentation. And I don't know what it was meant to be, but I think in our heads we had this imagination where we were going to do all these tricks and everything. I don't think we could even ride our bikes properly. And I just remember riding, we both started from either end of this wall where the presentation was, and we rode towards each other, and then we just pretended to fall into each other like this bike accident. And we fell on the ground, and I remember lying there going, I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing. And the teacher walked over and said, is that it? And I remember being so embarrassed, and then I think the teacher sort of realised that we didn't know what we were doing and said, well, I think this is a good lesson for everybody to make sure that you're always wearing your helmet when you're riding your bike. So kids and everything, remember that. And then all the parents obviously, poor kids, clap, 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 and we were saved. But then that's that sort of improv thing where you're in the moment, you don't know what you're doing. And luckily we had somebody that pulled us out.
It saved you, yeah.
At
That's
that
great.
moment.
Yeah.
It's a scary thing. So now when someone talks about improv and drama, I think of things like that. I go, oh God, you know, you're exposed in front of an audience, and you've got to think on your feet. And there might be a chance where you go, I've got nothing.
And it is actually, and they're the learning in improv. They're the learning experiences. You go, so what happened there? And what was blocking you? What was when it works? What's happening? And you start to figure out slowly the process, the mindset of. Especially improv, it's like the mindset is in the learning process. You learn through making mistakes.
Yep.
They're the learning moments where you go, oh, I get it. And you also learn by having planned stuff that doesn't work. You go, yeah.
Do you think with improv where people fall down with it initially is because they're always thinking of the bigger picture? They're always thinking that whatever they begin with, they've already sort of planned out what the final picture is, and then it doesn't quite get there.
And the other thing that happens is that it's the Homer Simpson brain, where he goes, brain, you've never helped me before, but please, just this one time. And then there's dead silence. All you hear the brain going, tick, 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 car door slamming and driving away. And that happens a lot also, where you kind
Put too much pressure on.
I got nothing.
Yep.
I can't move. I'm paralysed because I'm going, brain, give me something. And in terms of that type of thinking in the moment, being totally in the moment and spontaneous, you get past both of those. So thinking is the problem.
Yep.
So if you're trying to think your way out of it, you're not in the moment.
Yep.
You can't respond naturally. And if you're trying to plan it, it doesn't help. And if you're worried because there's nothing there, then you're thinking about not having something. It means it doesn't help. You're just jammed.
Yeah.
So it's the training and the classes are about just getting people to do things quickly without thinking.
Yeah. And
slowly you get the idea. You know, it's that stupid exercise you're talking about, suddenly being a knife and a fork in the corporate thing. It's as silly as that is. When you do the first one, you go, okay, everybody, you're in pairs. One, I say knife and fork. Someone pick one, and the person goes, you say, well, that's obviously a knife, so what are you going to be? Fork? Okay, we got it. Everyone else try. Now you're a pair of undies on a washing machine. And they look at each other, and then one becomes the washing machine. And slowly, by the end of that silly exercise, people are laughing and just doing it.
Yeah.
And that's the slow process of getting past, well, what do I do? That's stupid. I can't. What? Give me something smart to do to just, I'll give that a crack. And it's a way of thinking. It's very useful if you can do it in real life too, but not many people can in real life. I think that's very zen to be in the moment all the time and just.
I try so hard. I think that's my ongoing challenge, where I'm always like, be in the moment, be in the moment, be in the moment. And even by saying that, I'm not being in the moment. I'm too busy thinking about the idea of being in the moment. And then you do your head in.
Meditation is the practice of.
That's hard.
Mind drifts, bring it back. Mind drifts, bring it back.
Gently bring it back.
And that's
gently
it.
bring it back.
We're hearing the other day that's what all it is.
Yeah.
It's that practice, and by doing that, something else happens in your brain, in your mind.
Yeah.
But the monkey mind is just permanent. Well, it's not permanent, but it's the human condition.
Yeah.
Give us 3 seconds, and the brain starts running around doing something else. Can't be helped.
It's a pretty incredible thing. Well, I'm looking at the time. We've done pretty good.
That was fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Before we wrap it up, what's the future look like at the moment for you? What's the next couple of years, or Who knows? Given your track record of just falling into things, is it?
Yeah, it's a bit of that, and it's if anything, I'm less worried in terms of how things will turn out. So less anxious.
Yep.
So as you get older, it's a little bit of like, well, you get that point where you go, how's this going to work out? And you go, well, who cares? Like, you know, it's not like I'm 21 and it's like, if I don't get this right, my career's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you know, just do it the way you want to do it and see if it works.
Yep.
So there's a certain kind of freedom that comes with, I think, continuing on with things and getting older, where you just go, okay, I'm not going to worry as much as I normally would, and I'm just going to let myself do it. And possibly in being a bit older, you're not as worried about the consequences. You go, if this works. So things are a bit more fun in that way.
Yep.
There's a challenge in getting older in any of these, in any industry, in anything, where you just go, well, is that it? Is that all I got? Maybe I should just take a walk and do something else. But it still seems like lots of projects out there, still plenty of things to do. So I would just say to people, you know, just keep doing it.
I think being that sort of jack of all trades, in a way of just putting your finger in multiple pies, so to speak, definitely helps you. Because I mean, as you said, if one thing doesn't work, then you move, you pivot somewhere else and try.
Certainly keeps you interested.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And as you were saying, with doing things like podcasts and being in bands and work and everything, it gets you trying different things and meeting different people and getting into worlds that you normally wouldn't have an insight into. So, you know, I mean, maybe that's the opportunity of the kind of world we're in now, where, you know, a long time ago, where you worked, you stayed in that one job. We were talking about that earlier before we started, and you were in that one social sphere and you lived that life within that. Whereas everything's so connected and available, it can make you just as isolated in a weird way when everything's so available. But there is that opportunity to contact and get mixed up in a whole lot of different things. That there are opportunities in this weird world we've got.
It's exciting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, well, there we go. Well, I think that's a good way to end it off.
Terrific.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that chat with Marko. If you want to check out anything that we spoke about, or even reach out to Marko, you can go and check out the show notes over at andysocial.net or andydowling.net. Everything's on there. And if you want to support the podcast, there's heaps of different ways you can do it. There's the Amazon portal link on my website if you shop on Amazon, or you can just share, like, tag, comment, all those social media functions. I'm all over social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. So you can find me just by searching my name or the podcast name, or just go to andydowling.net and everything will be on there as well. Also, of course, if you're on iTunes, you can rate and review the podcast. That also helps. It just makes the podcast reach more and more people, get a bigger audience, and it does amazing things for this. So thank you so much for those that have been doing that, and just a big thank you for actually listening to the podcast. It means a hell of a lot. And as I said at the beginning of the podcast, if this is your first time listening, I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and please, by all means, go back and listen to some of the guests that I've had on the past. Lots of amazing people, and it's really, really pleasing and exciting when I can connect new people to the guests that I've had on in the past. It's amazing what you can learn from conversation and listening to other people explain and talk about what they get up to on a day-to-day basis, or what they've been involved with over the years. So it's been really, really cool so far to date. Okay, enough of that. Another episode next week. Thanks so much for listening and supporting. It means a lot. Bye-bye.